Well, hello everybody. I want to do this live video. It's a response to the prosecution by Elections Canada against myself and maybe others in the 51st state movement. The idea of registering a political party to that effect. It's been met with massive Crown resistance all the way through. The idea of Canadians ever becoming a We the People Republic made impossible. And now, more than impossible, they're actually targeting leaders and those heavily involved in the movement. Myself, Jonathan LaBelle, all for spoiling a ballot in the 45th election. I got a response from the investigator Friday. I've been quiet all weekend. I've had major lawyers from the United States respond to me, even upwards of last night. I've made my decision and I wanted to wait. I wanted to go through everything. There's another academic I could meet this week. I reached out to Kean Brexty. He did not respond, hasn't responded yet. And in fact, I'm not going to go forward with that meeting with that expert on Canada's system and its tribunal system through Elections Canada. I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to go through why. A lot of people said go for political asylum. Now, folks, I qualify. Officially, this qualifies for political asylum, but I'm not going to do that. Sorry. I'm going to tell you why. The United States reserves political asylum only for the most worst of the worst cases. When you apply for political asylum, it can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years to process you. All of that time, you're not eligible to work, you're under your own finances or donations of others. It's not how I want to spend my life. I don't want to leave Canada into a situation like that. I think that for me would have to be at the point where my children are threatened or my life's threatened, which it could very well get there because I'm going to continue on in this post and fill everybody in. So it's Dominic LeBlanc. He's not only president of the Privy Council of Canada, he's also working for finance right now in that ministry, as well as he runs Elections Canada. He's in charge of all of that. He's the one, through Privy Council and the ministers who met, he's also the one who's in charge of USA-Canada trade. He's the one who's going to be doing the new USMCA. He's also, oh, look this, I'm already getting messages again. I'm not stopping my video. I've made my decision. It's going to be what I present to all of you today. And I should have took off notifications. So it's Dominic LeBlanc that's met and determined through Mark Carney to come after me. It is Chief Electoral Officer of Canada who is beholden to Dominic LeBlanc. Dominic LeBlanc gives his marching orders to that Chief Electoral Officer who has began a serious investigation into me over a spoiled ballot in Ontario where I resided for a year. There's too much made available to the Chief Electoral Officer in that letter and in this prosecution that can only come from one source, and that's Dominic LeBlanc. And you can look at that. I made a post highlighting how it goes in order of events, top to bottom, and how the Chief Electoral Officer is in fact beholden only to the President of the Canadian Privy Council, which is Dominic LeBlanc. All marching orders come from there. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hire a lawyer. I'm not going to the USA for political asylum. I'm not going to hire a lawyer, as a lot of people have reached out. High-minded people, highly established people with lots of connections there even on the American side, which is the only side I would have been willing to do. It was Americans who put me in touch with a high mind in Canada who knows everything about elections law, and what this tribunal that's going to be set up against me is all about. Yes, the fines are substantial. Yes, it could mean I could never run an election ever again in my lifetime, meaning not registering parties, not able to deal with Elections Canada before I die. There's 8 counts against me. When in that tribunal, they can come at terms of 5 years of pop restrictions. 8 times 5 is 40. I'd be 97 years old by the time I'd be eligible to ever run an election again or register a party. It's basically them threatening to terminate my ability to ever run again in Canada. Basically terminating any form of democracy I may have had before this date, which under 51st state, I don't believe there was any for me anyway. So, folks, I've sat on this all weekend. I got the response. Yes, they're continuing the investigation. Yes, they're demanding I put it in writing, my statement, all my evidence, send it to them, yada, yada, yada. And I think, okay, you built this case by going through my social media, by going through my employment records, by going through my travel records the chief electoral officer would never have access to. That would come absolutely from president of the Privy Council, which means other ministries were involved. But I'm not going to try and attempt to hire somebody to figure all that out for me. I'm going to do what's very easy, what Donald J. Trump would call fight, fight, fight. And I'm going to do it my way, contrary to what everybody else is telling me. I'm going to file against King Charles III, our head of state, a power through any superior court in Canada. The risks are large. I'm going to represent myself. I'm going to name Dominic LeBlanc, whom I can pull like poison from veins out, and I can force him to answer to my inquiry, my suit against King Charles III. Now, this could go real bad for me, that's true, but at least I'll have that stage. I will fight tooth and nail as to why Dominic LeBlanc, with everything going on in Canada and wasting the presidency of the Canadian political establishment, massive tax dollars, massive ministerial time, when there's so much wrong with Canada right now, against me over a spoiled ballot. I'm going to make that charge. I'm going to charge King Charles III. I'm going to show you how I do that, as I did it 8 years ago against Queen Elizabeth II, and I pulled that minister right out of Parliament at the time. Now, Parliament isn't sitting, but it's still going to force him, or at least his representative, to answer to the charges, and any Canadian can do that, and I'm going to do that. This will be my second attempt. I was warned after the first time 8 years ago that should I pursue something like this ever again, it's going to mean my financial ruin and much, much more. And I don't care. I don't care. It's the fact that the abuse of power, the undemocratic evil that's been put forward here. Again, everybody, and I've seen some cockamamie Canadians who comment and say, well, that's what you get for spoiling a ballot and not voting Conservative. It's my right, my ballot should be the most sacred thing for any Canadian to make their decision on what best suits them and make their statement politically, and their either support of the government or not support of the government direction. It's probably the only power we truly have, the only one right we have. Run in an election or vote in an election. That's really the only right that you have in this country. And that's not much. That's not much of a right at all. And they're threatening to take all of that away from me, saying, you will never have any rights ever again, not unless we say you do. And we're not going to have any democracy for you. We're going to finish you. And why, everybody? Because I spoiled a ballot, my God-given right. And I shouldn't even say that. My Lord Master's given right from the crown. Not even from God. I shouldn't even say that. Again, that's American. That's not Canadian. But I'm going to fight. I'm going to take a page out of the Donald J. Trump book, and I'm going to do that. As for the New York delegation, everything's going great. Even those two academics who are fully on board. I still have to work out the senator with the RCMP. I still have to have a meeting at the U of A, Faculty of Law, Faculty of Political Science, and the U of C, University of Calgary, Faculty of Law and Political Science. I hope to have all this done by October. I hope to be finished before December. There's hula hoops with the United States. There's security that comes with not only the senator, but a foreign dignitary. All three will be speaking if I can organize these events. They'll all be speaking. One on the 51st state from the Republican political perspective inside the Trump administration. One from a country who's persecuted, who also responded and said, what's being done to you was done to me. And then, of course, a lot worse. You're going to hear from him as he teaches you republicanism, and he'll teach you succession lawfully in the world today and give you that great example of what happens to a group of people, a region, when you don't follow international law. And again, this is a person who was denied by Donald J. Trump and is being sponsored now by Donald J. Trump, at least for the next year's time until May of 2026. And then, of course, I'm going to have my good friend Richard Albert, the only one I'm going to name at this point, who's already agreed, and he's going to give you all provincial constitutions. What should and could be done in Canada very easily for all Canadians in every region, at least on the road to check marking a box, as so many provinces say they want these things, but yet are not willing to do what's legally required, what's available to you easily, can be done within a year's time, very, very legally and easily in the Canadian model system, which is also the road at later to the 51st state, the first major check mark, a must you must have to have. And again, you're going to hear for a Republican senator deep inside the Donald J. Trump administration. You'll hear from him. He'll explain all that to you live. It will be at the University of Alberta and then again at the University of Calgary. Now, I can't ask American taxpayers to fund this. This will be a ticketed event. I will have to raise money through donations when the time comes, when I know I have RCMP, that I have the American government satisfied. When I have all three academics, I'll have to put them, all three of them, up in hotels in both Edmonton and Calgary, and there'll be security for the event through the RCMP. I'll have to have all that together, and I'll also have to charge. I'll have to charge for tickets in person, and then we'll charge online as well too. We'll have to, because I'm not going to be able to pay for all that, and I have enough problems. I'm not going to make any money. I'm going to set that cost exactly what it is. My gift of MC is going to be free, obviously, and what the academics will come up with, and maybe the senator himself will come up with, that's on them. I'll raise as much as I can through donations and tickets, and then I'll cut it off when the bill is paid. I don't think it would be much more than maybe tops $20,000. And I'm just going off the top of my head here. Maybe it'll be more than that. I don't know. But I'll keep it within the cost of what it is. But again, I can't ask American taxpayers to pay to deliver for Canadians or Albertans or Quebecois or anybody else. It will be on Canadians to come up with that money. Nothing in life is free, and people don't get handouts and freebies. That's the problem with socialism and what a lot of people are accustomed to. And at this juncture, like I said, it's pivotal as we look at where's our trade going, our economy going with the United States. And I think people need to look at this, see this reality before us, the words of the experts, of those involved, right out of the horse's mouth, like nobody else in Canada could ever deliver. It's right from the source. You're going to hear the truth, the ugly truth that so many Canadians don't want to hear. They believe that somehow liars, cheats, and thieves who come to you with cockamamie schemes at unbelievable charges to you, demanding donations, making literally millions of dollars. There's so many orgs who've raised millions of dollars and who are going to deliver nothing but shit and lies, mistruths, misleading paths that lead you only right back to the crown. We're going to nip all that in the bud, and at a real fixed rate, a cheap rate that people can come up with, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So that's my video. That's where I'm going. I'm going to fight. I'm going to go tooth and nail all this year, no matter what is done to me or what financial ruin befalls me. I'm going to fight right to the end, and you're going to see all that. You're going to see that little people can stand, little people can do amazing things, seemingly impossible things, and deliver a truth, and maybe you'll see the United States in a different light. That's my video. That's where I'm at. Please, everybody, share, get it out there. The more people who see it, the more effect it has. And, people today who don't want any of this, I have the foresight that within a few short years, this will be screamed for, and it will have been delivered. At least I'll die trying to do that. I expect massive Crown opposition. I expect that they're going to ramp up persecution on me to unbelievable rates. I know it's all going to be financial. That's the Crown's motto. They've exhausted the criminal with me at this point, even in Canadian law. For the Crown to go after me criminally anymore when there's no merit to criminal charges is malicious prosecution. And I won't be playing their game anymore. I won't be to the point where I'm financially destitute, where I have no choice but to sign off and allow them their freedom just so I'm not persecuted anymore. It's called a no contest in Canada, and it's what the Crown likes to do. If there's any more criminal, I'm not going to be pursuing that. I will go for malicious prosecution, and I think they know that, and they know I'm at that stage, so that's not going to happen. But tribunals, ministry attacks that really are not in our judiciary, meaning you could hire a lawyer, but you're in their kangaroo court. Sorry, everybody. But you're in their kangaroo court, and I don't think with that there's any kind of process for you, even with the lawyer. And I know that because I've been through kangaroo courts in my life before. And what are you left with? Oh, sue after it's all over. Tie it up in court for 10 to 20 years. We'll come up with money, right? Ask for donations. Create more for the Crown. And I'm just not playing that game anymore. I'm not going to play that game. For me, I'm not going to run away to the United States. Now, I'm not saying others that do that. When you go political asylum, that's to each their own. People have to weigh that upon themselves. I'm not going to do that because it doesn't serve the things that I want to get achieved and done so far in my life. Again, now that could change if my life's threatened or my family's threatened. I mean, we can get to that stage. It has happened in Canadian history before. Canada's not a beacon of purity and honesty and integrity. It's as rotten as any other country, even in the third world. In fact, a lot of things in Canada's history are much worse than what we see in the third world. But folks, that's my video. Please share. Get it out there. It's critical and it helps me. So I'll be sharing. I need all of you to share. God bless everybody. That's my statement. That's my video. That's the path forward. Bye now.